Right, so today I'm here with Richard Palmer, who is the UKIP parliamentary candidate, and today's interviewing panel is Ashley and Stephen. Slightly less than we've had before, but there we go. Right, so without any further ado, I shall let you get on with it.
Can we ever make housing generally affordable for local people?
In the present climate, I would say no. I think the trouble is, again, it's probably UKIP's stance, isn't it? There's too many people coming in, and not enough houses being built. So unless you're going to build 300,000 to 400,000 houses perhaps a year to cope for the 300,000 people coming in, you're never going to have enough houses. Unless you restrict the number of people coming in, then you'll never have what I call affordable houses.
Okay. Second question, still on housing. There appears to be a disparity in the way repairs and maintenance are handled in relation to council housing, favouriting those that don't look after their properties over those who do. What could be done to rectify this?
Good question, because I didn't realise that there was that disparity. I would have thought anyone was treated equally, and they should be. If people are recklessly damaging their property, then they should be charged for the damage they've caused. But people should be treated equally when it comes to repairs.
This one is on education.
We are all looking to go to university. What is your personal opinion on tuition fees?
Tuition fees, it's an interesting subject. I think the trouble is too many people go to university, and that's put a drain on resources. I also think it's very hard for people to go to university and finish up with a big debt. So I think what we need to look at is what skills do we need as a country. We need doctors, we need scientists, we need teachers. And perhaps if they're doing a skill or that sort of university course, then I think that should be paid for free of charge by the government, providing you agree, if you come out qualified as a doctor or a teacher or something like that, that you work in that profession for 5 years, you don't disappear off to Australia or somewhere like that. But I think it would be very hard. It's hard for people. Again, it links back to your first question on affordable housing. If you finish up with a big debt from university, it makes it very hard to afford a house.
Okay. Fourth question, still on education. We have seen a significant growth in our population over recent years, and with local school places in such high demand. What could be done to alleviate the situation?
I think there's either two ways of doing that. You either build a lot of schools, suitable for the number of people that are coming into the country or already into the country, or you have to restrict the number of people coming in. You can't plan if you don't really know the numbers that are coming into the country. And that's one of the biggest problems we face at the moment. It's not just schools, it's across the board with hospitals, GPs and the roads. So it's a twofold answer. You either have to build a lot more schools, or you have to restrict the number of people that are able to come into the country.
This one is on transport.
What measures might be put in place to deal with the rising numbers of potholes, hazardous footpaths, air quality and noise pollution generated by traffic?
Well, it's interesting. Again, it probably links back to like housing. We seem to be building a lot of houses around here, and a lot of people move down from London, then travel back up. It's putting wear and tear on the roads. So really, if you want a sustainable environment, you need to build the houses where the jobs are, not dumping the houses somewhere and then expecting people to travel. What should be done about the potholes? I think a lot of people who drive vehicles will say that they pay enough to use the roads, and I think there needs to be an emphasis on trying to sort them problems out, but the roads are overused.
Next question, still on transport. With renewed commitment to upgrade Stockby Roundabout and lacklustre support from Kent Highways to pursue the completion of the Northern Relief Road, should this remain a Swale Council priority, and if so, what benefits will it bring exactly?
What, the completion of the Northern Relief Road?
Yes.
I think the trouble is, if you get the Northern Relief Road, you're going to have the Southern Relief Road. If you've got the Southern Relief Road, you're going to have more housing and that's going to add to more traffic problems. It seems to be that as we build more and more housing, we have more and more traffic problems. As soon as we sort the traffic problems out, it increases more and more housing, because what the government say is to pay for this new road, you'll have to agree to have a few more thousand houses in an area. I would like to see more emphasis actually I think Stockbury does need sorted out, and I think there's cheap options to do. A little flyover, taking just even if you just took vehicles, just cars, heavy good vehicles to use the roundabouts. There are little things they could do, but I would like to see more of an emphasis in improving the railways. So if people do have to travel, they're using public transport, particularly into London, where once you're into London, you don't need a car.
What can be done to improve public transport, given that local bus services are being cut?
The trouble is, it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? A lot of people say there's one bus being, a bus is used, it comes in from a village and it has one person on it. It's not economical. I don't know if that's a good answer, because I think sometimes they cut the services and people sometimes are not aware that it's there. Or it's not there at the right time, or there's just one a day. So, should you have more services? I think there should. Because again, I think it goes back to the last question. If you've got a good public service, a good public transport system, I think the prices might need to be reduced. That would drive more people off the roads, and possibly it would make it easier. And we are saying to people, we've got elderly people who can't get to hospital appointments or to the GP because they're no longer in the villages, the GPs, they're always stuck in the towns, and there's a very poor bus service. So you can't have a poor bus service and GPs all stuck in the town. You need to have an integrated system. Again, the better the bus service gets, maybe people will say, well, the roads are freer, I can now jump back in my car and get into town quicker. But I would like to see a better independent sort of bus service that copes with, which do take people into the towns, the villages, to the stores, to where they want to go, and even later in the evening, where people can go out and come back reasonably safe, where they don't have to walk back or sometimes take the chance and think, well, shall I jump in the car and go that night and have a drink and then be able to get back. So a good transport system and a good public transport system is required, yes.
The next question is on economy. What might you be able to do to support local businesses?
I think local businesses suffer. I think the trouble is we tend to forget that a lot of people who run a small business, independent traders, are struggling. Major retailers have free parking outside their stores. They seem to get all the advantages. I think we should have personally, I would say a 4 to 5 hour period where you can go into town without parking. You don't want people to park in town all day. You'd have the people who are using the railways, but again, I want to drive people onto the railways, so perhaps there should be car parking available for when they get to the station. But if you want to get people into the town, I can remember when my mum was about, we used to take her into town. We'd go shopping, go into one of the pubs that, particularly as she was getting older, she'd never used to have a meal. You'd take her in, have a meal in a pub, a talk and a chat, and you're not thinking about, oh, I've only got 2 hours on the car, I've got to rush back. That's the biggest problem. If you made it a bit more of an enjoyment, where there's restaurants, cafes, the pubs are now selling food, some of the pubs have realised they've got to sell food to cope and to keep viable, that would, I think, would help to drive people into the town. Possibly, if you looked at Sittingbourne and perhaps in Sheppey as well, you could pedestrianise the high street a little bit, or pedestrianise the high street. I find it quite interesting. On Saturdays it's quite nice to go in there. You can take your children in, you can walk about, and you feel quite safe. During the week it's not the same, and I think if you pedestrianised it and tried to get other sort of attractions into the town, then you might get more of a footfall into the town. As you get more people using the town, some of the bigger shops say, hold on, perhaps we should be in the town rather than sticking out in a retail park. So I think there's a lot of businesses, they are struggling. Maybe some of the businesses need more reduced business rates, but I would say free parking and not so strict parking, and perhaps pedestrianising the high street would be a good move to encourage into the shops.
Yeah. This one's on local facilities.
What facilities would you provide that would benefit the local community, especially younger people?
Well, I don't think it's up to me to provide. Well, sorry, yes it is. I can see where you're coming from with that question. I've got ideas, but I think it's for people to come back and say what they want. Because it's no good me saying, I'm going to do a fantastic skate park, and you don't need it. You might want something else. You might want a nice rink, you might want a bowling alley, you might want several things. So I think there should be more engagement, and it's actually, what do the people want, and then how do we put it in place?
The next question is in general. If there is one thing you would like to achieve in Sittingbourne area during your term as our MP, what would it be?
That's a good question. I'm going to have to think on that one. In the Sittingbourne area,
Yeah.
what one good thing would I like to achieve? I think I'd like to achieve where people feel that they're involved and their voice is listened to. So, going back to your earlier question, that young people have said, we'd like this. I mean, I sometimes look and maybe think, well, some pubs, they have big function rooms, pubs sometimes say they're struggling. What do people want? So if I could achieve something, it's that you feel that you can go to your local council, your local MP, you can raise something and it's looked at and it's dealt with. That's what I feel should be an achievement, that people feel more engaged with politics. I don't think people are engaged with politics now.
This is another general question.
What is your favourite musical group or artist and why?
Oh, that's interesting. Buddy Holly. And that's what I grew up on. So I've got 5 brothers, I think 5 brothers older than me, and I grew up listening to rock and roll. So I would say it's Buddy Holly.
Cool. Next one in general. Outside of politics, what do you enjoy doing in your spare time?
To be quite honest, for the last couple of years, outside of politics, I've done nothing. Before I came into politics, I used to run an air training corps unit. So I loved that. It was a nice activity. I got pulled into it by just being asked for someone to do a favour for them. I loved doing it, watching the cadets they joined at 13, watching them change, taking them out where they can fly a glider, and watching them develop like that, to me, was quite an enjoyable thing. It took up a lot of time. I was out every weekend, whether it was a Duke of Edinburgh sort of trip, or taking them to a range or something like that, taking them flying, and evenings. So that probably was the most thing that I did, the air training corps. When I stopped doing that, then I realised that I had a gap in my life and politics took over.
This is the final question.
What is your favourite shop in Sittingbourne?
Favourite shop? Very good question. Very good question. My favourite shop in Sittingbourne, I'm going to have to think about that one. Because my favourite shop in Sittingbourne. Now, I used to have a good bookshop, but that's gone. My favourite shop in Sittingbourne. Does it have to be a shop or could it be a pub?
It's up to you. It's up to you, yeah.
No, I mean, favourite shop, I don't actually... To be quite honest with you, most of the shopping that I do, I don't do. Because when I go out to do any shopping, I come back with stuff that I don't need. So my wife tends to say she prefers to do the washing. She prefers to do the shopping. And I stay at home and put the washing on and do the ironing, and she's quite happy with that. So if you said to me, what's the price of milk or what's the best shop to go into Sittingbourne, I don't really, I walk down to town, I do a bit of shopping or I go with her, but I don't really do that much shopping. And to answer that question, I feel a bit stuck, to be quite honest.
Okay, well, I'd like to thank you very much for your time today, Richard. It has been a pleasure, and thank you very much for doing this.
Okay, cheers.